We finally get to see Dick Hallorann's shining gift in action. General Shaw's history is blown wide open. Plus, if you're sitting in a cemetery conjuring demons, don't be surprised if Pennywise finally appears. Or do we really get to see him? All that and more on the next episode of Unbinged, starting now. Hey everyone, welcome to Unbinged, the show where we like to dissect all the shows that you guys are binging. I am Sam Holt, joined of course by Jagger May, Alfredo Brown, and Matt Kaufhammer. Guys, we have so much to jump into when it comes to episode 3 of It Welcome to Derry, but before we do that, let's get a spoiler warning. Cough, let's have it.
Hey, this is your one spoiler warning for It Welcome to Derry and basically all of Stephen King's works, so don't complain when we spoil something you haven't read yet.
Everyone should have done the reading. It felt like this was an episode where if you didn't do the reading, you were missing out on part of the homework assignment and the question came across your test and you're like, this feels like it was important. Guys, I'm talking a lot about Dick Hallorann's gift with The Shining. There's so much that came into being with this final reveal, him using his gifts, lots of different nuances. Koff, I know that you've got a lot of history to this, so I'm going to go to you last because I want to get to the rest of the class before we jump to you with all the final notes. So, Jag, let's start with you first. How did you feel when you saw Dick Hallorann in the helicopter first using his shining gift on the slingshot, which we find out about later in the episode, the importance of it?
From top to bottom, from the acting to the actual context, I feel like this show has finally found its gravitational pull, its anchor. And I think as much as we love the kids, the Losers Club, the Stranger Things vibe, Dick Hallorann and the adults seem to be the strength of the show, all the way down to it. I don't even mean just Leroy. Like Charlotte, I really enjoy all of her screen time. Dick is by far the strongest character, and we've just had the one episode with him. So I'm just hungry for more, like we already knew what he was capable of, especially if you haven't seen The Shining at this point. I don't know why you're here. Go watch The Shining. But it's cool to really see in action. And I got to ask, if Pennywise just hates a fucking slingshot, like he sees like those elastic things and just fucking hates it, like that's got to be his number one enemy, like Superman has kryptonite, Pennywise has a slingshot and love and friendship.
Absolutely. We'll get to the slingshot turnaround with you, Koff. But Alfredo, I want to get your take on this as well. Not only do we see him putting his hand on the object and seeing beyond, but he's actually experiencing Pennywise from another dimension. What did that do for you in terms of getting to see the shining gift that we know? Because I know that you finally watched The Shining, as well as the rest of this universe.
Yeah, I did the work. I put in the work, Sam. Okay.
So proud.
This was actually less for me about Dick Hallorann using his gift and more about how Pennywise almost seemed kind of surprised. He was just like, who are you? This is the first time we really see Pennywise in that state where he's just like, what are you doing here, man? Like Dick Hallorann showed up like a Jehovah's Witness at Pennywise's front door and he's like, oh, fuck, someone's here unexpected. Let me get my pants on. Like he was just ready to he had no idea what was going on. And we never see that. Normally Pennywise is just kind of like omnipresent and just like always aware of everything. So if anything, I actually wonder if Pennywise is a little scared because now he sees that there's someone else with power that he doesn't quite understand.
Do you think he has a no soliciting sign on the edge of his cistern and Dick just ignored that?
Probably. No magical Negroes. Like I asked for none. This is
not some, none.
Koff, you had a really great thing that you said when we were off air before we started. And I think that it's really present in terms of the feeling of this moment of Dick Hallorann crossing the other side and seeing Pennywise. You said when you stare into the abyss stares back into you. How was this for you in terms of getting to see the combination of these two entities?
Oh, yeah. This was easily my favorite scene of the show. Honestly, this and the dinner scene with Leroy, Charlotte, and Dick Hallorann was my second favorite. Because then we got a little bit more explanation of what The Shining was. And he's like, yeah, my grandma used to say it's being able to see things without seeing them, if you will. And Leroy immediately is like, I grew up in a place where everybody knew somebody that could do that. So for me, it was, and if you watch the after credits, they go into this a little bit in the making of the episode. But Dick Hallorann, his whole life has had this gift. He's been perfecting it, if you will. And he's never met somebody that was stronger in the shine than he was. And because of what Pennywise is and how he operates, he's basically all shine. And so when Dick is confronted with those two eyes and finally feels that fear in his own soul, he's like, oh, we are messing with things beyond our understanding. And we need to back up very, very, very carefully. And it almost felt like an Oppenheimer moment where they're like, guys, this might be a bad idea. Maybe we should stop doing things when we don't understand what we're going to unleash. And I could feel that fear on the actor's face because of the way he portrayed it without really saying anything in the scene. So I thought that was a wonderful way to expand this lore and give us a little bit more than what we normally would get in like The Shining and in it with Dick's interlude chapter. Is we got a little bit of an expansion of his powers, and I really appreciate that. And the way they set that scene up where he is basically sleepwalking to the end of the plane and almost like takes a nosedive, I thought was brilliant, because that just shows, again, how powerful of an entity Pennywise is, where Pennywise was basically taking a nap and was like, oh, you're messing with me? I'm going to make you walk off a plane.
Yeah, that was really interesting because it just goes into how Pennywise will use what he's created as well as the surroundings around people to level up not just the fear, but the psycho confusion that he has with his victims. And it felt like he had, like, to your point, Alfredo, he had someone walk into his space and he was like, oh, you're going to walk into my space. I'm going to walk into yours and mess with you and your world from that direction. It was definitely, and they even talked about it in the after episode that you brought up as well, in terms of Dick Hallorann has probably been going around feeling pretty good about himself and his gifts and what he's capable of doing until he's been challenged. And he hasn't been challenged until now. And he's had that moment that you just mentioned, Koff, in terms of we should probably turn back now. Jagger, when you heard that moment and you saw General Shaw's face, you kind of know there's no turning back, right?
Yeah, he's like, I already committed and the government spent millions. Like, it's happening, my boy. But it's that moment and his the subsequent meeting with or a dinner with Leroy and his wife. I fell in love with Dick right then. He is such a real character. Oh, fuck. Damn it. I said it. I can't believe I set myself up. Anyway, I fell in love with Hallorann as a character because essentially I feel like he's just a realistic black dude. He's just like, hey, bro, fuck that. Nope. No, I saw him. Like, I'm good. You know, like, I don't think we should fuck with him. He seems really upset and he doesn't like shoes on his carpet. And then the follow up with that with Leroy, he's just like, yeah, I was in your head, bro. No, I'm good on that. Thanks. You ain't scared of shit. Yeah, you ain't scared of shit. I ain't fucking with you. Like,
I love that. I love that scene because it's a mirror to with Pennywise, he doesn't have a choice. Like, the general's the one that gets the say. But with Leroy, Dick Hallorann is like, you know what? I'm good. Like, there's something wrong with you. And instead of being scared, you're analyzing. And I don't know how to treat this, so I'm just going to back away. So I love that dichotomy. And we got to see, like, in action that Dick Hallorann is like, look, when I don't know something, I don't mess with it unless I'm being forced to. So I love that dichotomy.
And that's what I love with modern horror more than ever, because we don't have the fearless, and literally Leroy being fearless, that is a medical condition that they say, this guy, there's something fucking wrong with him. You know, like that's weird. Everyone else is very real, because a lot of times 80s, 90s, even up until I would say the A24 era of horror, it was always, oh man, you know, something's happening. Let's gather me and my friends in a backpack and let's go figure it out.
Come on,
it's
gang.
like, no, like, this guy's just like, man, fuck that. Let's get out of here and let's leave. That's realistic to me. That's why I like stuff like Hereditary, Midsommar, because I'm like, man, I didn't have a choice. They fucking trapped me and it's game over. And I get taken out of horror when we don't have the realistic compass that says, what if we don't?
What if we don't go that way? Like, let's just maybe turn around. Guys, before we jump into a little bit more, I want to tell everyone that's tuning in exactly how much more they can get from this awesome show. Guys, if you're watching, please subscribe on YouTube and like. We really appreciate it. And make sure you're following us everywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and again, everywhere you get your podcast. Not only are we covering It Welcome to Derry, we just reviewed Predator Badlands. Spoiler alert, it was fantastic. So go check out that movie and watch our review. We've also got Pluribus coming up on Apple TV, Stranger Things, and Fallout, so lots more to get from Unbinged. Guys, we're kind of talking about The Shining Gift, and we kind of need to start talking about the flashback that we got to see to begin the episode with General Shaw, and we come to learn about Auntie Rose. In terms of that connection, what I liked so much about this episode, and Alfredo, I'll kick this to you because you kind of threw it in the chat last night as we were watching everything. We got so many connections in this episode in terms of finally linking things. Unlike other shows that we've watched and we've dissected, I feel like there's a constant buildup of different things. And this show is doing a really good job in terms of building stuff up, but delivering. We got so many questions answered in terms of why is General Shaw so intent about this? How does he even know about Pennywise? And we come to learn in the flashback, he experienced him firsthand. How did that land for you in terms of watching that unfold and watching that connection get made?
So I was saying that this was kind of my favorite episode, but also probably my least favorite episode at the same time, because like they finally did some stuff with story where they pushed things along. They gave us backstory, but there's still some holes in the boat that I need to get like filled in, or else this thing's just going to start sinking really fast. Just having the understanding that, okay, we don't need horror, just pure horror in every single episode for it to work. But I do need to understand like why Francis Shaw is there. Okay, this whole idea that he is searching for the entity. He does have, like you said, Cough before the show, the totem, right? If he leaves and says that he forgot about the town, he forgot about Rose, he forgot about everything, how is he back? Is it just happenstance? It's coincidence that he gets stationed there and all of a sudden it magically starts to just come back to him? That's very possible. But I think what this did is it finally gave us a reasoning for why the military even cares, and that's the other thing is I got to find out like what did he do? Did he just walk into the office and be like, "Hey guys, listen, there's a magical entity that's been here for like 300 years. Let's get all of our resources on this shit now." Something happened to me when I was a kid. Like, how does all that even happen? And maybe I'm trying to ask too many questions in a show about a magical clown that has lights and a turtle and all that, but like I do want to have these questions answered.
Koff, I feel like you're going to have some of these answers in terms of doing the reading, because there is a very good reason why everyone that leaves Derry forgets it.
No, I have none of those answers because it's not really explained. Like, it really isn't.
Just in the book that it happens.
It just happens because that's part of Pennywise's influence on the town. And one of the things, like, the reason he stays in Derry and cultivates like that town to build up around him is so that way no one fucks with his feeding. So I am this whole expansion on the military plotline is very confusing to me as a book reader, because the only thing that's in the book is there is an army base and it has nothing to do with the story other than it's part of an interlude chapter where like one of the hangouts that the black, at that point they're soldiers, have for themselves, that gets burned down by a bunch of white supremacists. So I have no answers when it comes to this plot line, this military subplot, and the Cold War. The only thing I can think of to answer one of your questions, Alfredo, is maybe General Shaw was like, "Hey, we're at the height of the Cold War. I might have an idea. Give me a blank check and we'll see if it works." And maybe he's high enough in the rankings where he can kind of pull that. Dude, I have no idea. This still is my least favorite.
I felt like this would have been the
show.
perfect opportunity for us for them to show us that, of like how this came to be in just a really quick thing, even a montage of like how he got there to that point. They did so much explanation, even to the point where we can even see like almost the city limits of where Pennywise can get out to when we see the forest there. Right?
But even then, that was weird to me. Like, Pennywise has never shown any sort of like limitation to himself. So I don't know if that's self-imposed. I don't know if that's a magical thing that the natives in the movie and the show did. There's still a lot they need to explain for me to accept it. Because right now I'm just like, I don't know.
See, part of me feels like that can be explained by the fact that it seems like over the decades, Pennywise has different years of strength, and depending probably on how much he feeds and how much he's grown over time, to the point where we get to the movies, it feels like he's kind of complacent in terms of his strength, and it doesn't expect to be defeated and bested by those kids in the films. So we're getting these flashbacks of different versions of him and just how much he has evolved and how much he has grown. So part of me does believe the limitations in terms of how far he can spread. And then for me, I kind of felt like the answer for Shaw in terms of coming back, because knowing that when you're away from Derry you forget, there's also a draw from Pennywise of people to come back to him, because we did experience some of that with the Losers Club loosely in the book. Part of me feels like he could have been stationed there and then started to remember these feelings and started to remember parts of these things, because he said when he ran into Rose in her shop that he didn't remember her name until he saw it on paper. So I do feel like there's enough breadcrumbs, at least there was for me, to make the connection in terms of how he remembered, one, being attacked by this as a thing, its strength, what it did to scare him. And maybe this is also heightened in the part of, this is the history that they're living in. They're dealing with the Cuban Missile Crisis. They're dealing with the Russians. There's a big sense of fear in the military. And that fear can also, again, because he feeds on that, can kind of bring him up. And maybe, we haven't seen it yet necessarily, Pennywise messing with the adults. We see it in the connection with Dick Hallorann, but we haven't seen it in terms of him appearing in front of one of these other adults. Jagger, how did all of this work for you in terms of getting to watch these connection made? Because you did make the great call out. Pennywise hates to see a slingshot coming, and we're used to seeing him in certain aspects and against certain entities.
I guess I don't want to bring it all the way back to what Koff was saying about like not knowing or about General Shaw not knowing anything, because like really I need that explanation a little bit, because I'm doing a lot of explaining for myself.
There's some mental gymnastics going on as a viewer right now.
Exactly, and they've made such a good show that I'm willing to ignore certain things, or I am doing that, because it's like, okay, what if he remembers Derry, where they're like, hey, we need a spot to where we could put a base and it's close to Russia and it's out in the middle of nowhere. He's like, oh, wait, I grew up this piece of shit podunk spot. Let's go there. Like even something like that. And to go off and then try to face him, I guess, is like, it just, there's a lot that doesn't make sense to me. And then when Koff comes at me where he's not confident, I'm losing my confidence in this as well. And like, again, thank God that we have Dick Hallorann, all these other characters and all these other interesting things happening, that him as an entity and a weapon that they're going to face. I mean, sure, slingshots work, maybe guns will. I just like, how does he even know he was there? Did he show up and he's like, oh fuck, there's a weapon here? I don't know, man. I feel like there's a lot of room for flashbacks, and them giving me flashbacks is allowing me to have some confidence in patience, where I'm not like shitting on the show online, you know.
It finally feels like all of the stories are actually converging together into one place in the show, but there's still a lot of like the cars that are coming to the same spot have 3 wheels on them. Like, you're not super confident in each of these plot lines just yet. So that's just, maybe we give it another week and it gets better. But right now, there's like a small bit of confidence going forward.
I hear you guys saying the mental gymnastics in terms of what the show's doing with all these storylines and what they're giving us in terms of flashback versus what we're still missing. Alfredo, I want to put this one to you in terms of how is this show separating itself from the movies as a standalone? Because now we're talking about everything, a lot of things that we're talking about have not been seen in the movies. Everyone that's not read the books is not very familiar with all these things. How is it working in terms of connecting things that way, but also standing alone on its own, so that those that haven't watched the movies maybe will want to go watch them after?
Yeah, I mean, what I think it's doing is it's trying to do its best to ground it a little bit in some realism, right? Like Dick Hallorann is originally from Louisiana. Am I mistaken in that? Right. So yeah, he's originally from Louisiana. So you've got a little bit of like all these different cultures where, some might call it magic, others will call it religion. You've got Rich talking about his Theo being a babalao, and going through basically the P's and Q's of Santeria, and and how real that is. And as a Cuban American who grew up in South Florida, like that shit is very real. There are people wearing all white with little stuff out on their patio and chicken bones, and there's people with chickens in their yard and they use it for that shit. And I think what they've done with this show is tried to take it and ground it in some realism, as opposed to what we saw in the movies, where you just don't have the time to explain all those things. All you're doing is just looking for the scares. So I do think this show has a really good chance of expanding so much further, giving us some realism to it, which I know is kind of crazy to say about this like mythical clown being that's just essentially lights that eat you. But I think they have a really good chance at doing that, and I'm seeing the recipe. Now it's just like, take these ingredients to the kitchen and don't fuck it up, Andy Muschietti. Which, by the way,
don't burn it.
He got a cool cameo at the beginning of the episode. If you guys noticed, the piano player.
Yeah, that was a lovely little cameo. Kof, kind of same thing to you in terms of how this is separating itself from the films as a standalone series, knowing that this season 1, we're staying in this time period. We've gotten a flashback from a different time, which to me gives us a taste of what later seasons are going to be. We're already aware that those season 2, season 3, they're all going to be jumping backwards in time, and how this is doing a good job of not only connecting from the films, but lacing in context for what we're going to get going forward.
Yeah, I think it's done a really good job of expanding the central plot point, where it's kids against this evil entity, and giving us more of the town, more of the people within the town, how they react to this phenomenon. And I think that's why characters like Charlotte are so important, because they are technically outsiders to Derry, coming in and seeing the rot from within. And so you get a little bit of that in the movie, but not much, because like Alfredo said, you got a tight time run of either 2, maybe 2.5 hours, and you got to get shit done. Whereas this can take its time and really expand upon some of those plot points that are, in my opinion, well done in the books, because the book is 1,400 pages long, so it meanders a bit here and there, but it gives you that world building that the movie just doesn't have the time for. So I'm loving seeing more of the town as a character, if that makes sense. The city of Derry as a character in and of itself. And so, like when Leroy is welcoming Dick Hallorann into their home, and he looks and he sees the neighbors kind of giving him a stank eye, just those little moments of discomfort. I think it's doing a really good job of doing that in the show, whereas in the movie, you just didn't have time for it, and you had to kind of glaze over some of those factoids. So I am enjoying that aspect. Again, some of these subplot lines are a little confusing to me as to where they're going and how they think it's going to go. What is keeping me grounded, though, is something Jagger said last episode, where it's like, hopefully this is just leading to a big calamity that explains how in the 80s there is no military presence, there is no subplot line of the adults knowing. So that's what's keeping me going, and not completely writing off that subplot. Because we already know how this story ends because of the movies, and I think this is a problem with prequels in general, is how do you keep the audience invested in these stories if we already know how it ends? And so far they're doing a good job by introducing some of these other characters and other ways of how Pennywise messes with people in the town of Derry overall.
Love that. You called out Jagger, and Jag, I want to hear your take as well, because in the flashback we get General Shaw as a kid, his interaction with his dad, and we get this connection with Auntie Rose that I wasn't necessarily expecting this type of connection going into this episode, but I enjoyed it personally in terms of showing, one, the dichotomy between someone that stays in Derry and is aware of Pennywise and everything that he is. But also there's things that she says in terms of, I believe her son was looking to her and saying, "You really want them digging around here?" And she says, "Yes, I want them to go. I want them to search." What did that do for you? Because for me, I was like, oh no, this is someone that's ready to have everything blow up in the military's face.
Yeah, because it's it goes off to being like indigenous, and I guess I'll use this opportunity because like you brought up brujeria and Santeria, Alfredo. I appreciate, and I talked about this at the beginning of the show. I appreciate some of the changes from the book. I'm not a diehard like Koff, so it was nice for you giving me that validation before the episode that like them pulling something out of a book from the Himalayas. Just that is some author shit. Let's put it that way. That is just like that is Stephen King cocaine. Like, fuck it. There's a book from the Tibet, and these kids will figure it out. They got a translator. There was Google back then in the 80s. They just like, but like the actual having natives here, I'm assuming they're like some descendants of like Iroquois or whatever of northern there. But like we get actual native lore where Pennywise is either a Wendigo, or down here in Oklahoma in Seminole culture, we actually call it the Owl Man, or like a very difficult name that's hard to pronounce. If you're a Navajo, that it's Wendigo or shapeshifter. That makes total sense that you have Pennywise out there, and the Navajo people are like, yeah, white man, go fuck with him. That'll get rid of our problem. It's like, and even if I'm then, that's like, maybe it's a 2 birds, 1 stone scenario. It's like, man, if we get rid of our shapeshifter and the white man, fuck
hey,
yeah.
We sent him a letter. We warned him.
I'm so anti-Rose for this. It's just like we didn't even need to open a casino to fuck up these white people's. It's just they go and poke a bear. It's just like it's fucking hilarious. Like that's just again all the things in my complaints of the show I can almost ignore
Center around the white man. Yeah.
Well, the characters is what I'm saying are very realistic. Like, I don't know if Andy Muschietti had like a consultant around here. He's just like, hey, you're not white. How would you respond to this? And then like a Native American lady would be like, I'd laugh at you and say, good luck.
Dude, I love this because these characters that you're talking about, Jag, from Dick Hallorann to Auntie Rose, they have a respect more than a fear. Of this entity, and that is super real throughout cultures, and that's what we're seeing here. Where Rich calls it the Orisha, and then Jag, you're calling it Wendigo, and like it's funny because you go through all these cultures, and maybe it's all the same. Pennywise is not these things in particular, but every culture has a name for what Pennywise could be or what type of entity he is, and that's why they have this strong respect for it.
Yeah. So in the book, they go into it in the book, and so Bill, when he finds that book from Tibet, he finds out that multiple cultures throughout the world have a similar entity that in general is called the glamour or glamours, because they use your own fear against you and they can shapeshift. So that is kind of, so
can
again,
you do this? Can you just do this when you're about to do one of those things to? Okay, great.
It's called a glamour.
Again, it's an expansion on a theme from the book. So I appreciate Andy Muschietti and the Muschiettis being able to pull from the book and expand upon it. It's when they pull something out of left field that I'm like, I don't know if that fits. That's fine.
I just love, Koff, that you're like so into giant mythical turtle and this thing called a glamour, and then it's like, wait a second, the military's here, you've gone too fucking far. This is where I draw the line.
Yeah. Yep. It's like, give me a turtle or get the fuck out. It's like, but like again, to give Koff, I'm not even a diehard. I'm just like, thank God I love everything else happening, because like it's kind of hard to ignore this here, because it's just, again, it comes back to like the questions, and I trust that they're going to get us there, because let me paint the roadmap that I see here. Right now they're building racial tension with Veronica and her dad there. There's going to be racial tension within the military because Dick Hallorann is getting special treatment, and he keeps pushing and asking for more things here. Just like, hey, we're tired of being in the rain. We're tired of this. And the military in general has always struggled with funding the people down low. Like any corporation, yes, I'm calling the military a corporation, they'll have that issue. So if the colored soldiers are starting to get more, that probably actually, this is the one case where I'm going to say this, it does mean that some of the white guys may get less. I'm not talking about TV roles, guys. Don't fucking quote me on this. And that is going to spark this whole calamity and shitstorm that Pennywise is going to take control. All right, Cough. Actually, me, I know you're dying there. That butthole's puckered.
So one thing I want to expand upon, Jag, is we've actually seen in the first episode a clue to what you're talking about. So on the Welcome to Derry billboard that Maddie sees in the background, there's 2 stickers at the bottom. One on the, I guess it would be the left-hand side, was like the Dames of Derry. And that's the lady that was talking in episode 2 in the butcher shop about Paul Bunyan being a blight and they're not going to let this shit stand. And then the other one on the other side is the Legion of White Decency, which is basically Derry's version of the KKK. So I think they are giving us little breadcrumbs. And what really sucks is we got to see the general. I feel like General Shaw seems like a decent man, and he doesn't seem racist or less racist than any 1960s white man could be. Yeah. And so I think what Pennywise is going to do is he's going to take this like good thing that General Shaw does for the black soldiers or the black airmen by giving them their own spot to blow off steam and have their own place, and Pennywise is going to twist that, and like you said, it's going to make the white men pissed because how can how can they have something that we don't? And so he's going to amp that hatred up, and we're going to see that culminate by the end of this season. So I think they're doing, again, a good job of breadcrumbing us. And so for the super fans like myself, you see those little clues, you're like, Leo meme. I love that you brought that up, and we are going to unfortunately see that culminate by the end of the season.
Yeah, the Legion of White Decency, that whole plot line, that was so a lot for me as a black dude. That is the one spot of the book that has stuck with me. Like, I joked about, like, I didn't read any of this shit. I'm like, oh, wow, I read all that N-word stuff. I heard all that. That's kind of where we're at here because, like, it does make sense. And I think what it is, man, they're going to ask, like, okay, let's give us our own spot where we can drink and stuff. And then, and again, Pennywise is feeding all that hate. So, all my complaints aside, and even all Andy Machetti's Flash stuff aside, I feel like the setup for this is allowing me to have a long leash. And normally I'm the dude to really, have a tight one anyway. So I'm very interested of seeing the blow up. I couldn't make that not sound weird. I was really trying to land that plane, and it landed in the weird spot.
It's fine. You landed it where you landed it. Where did it land for you, Alfredo, in terms of seeing this build up? Because we also know that what Pennywise does really well, to all your points, Cough, is he amplifies things that might already be there, or even if there are thoughts that were there. Maybe not things that are real, but he amplifies tension, he amplifies fear, and it feels like he's amplifying, at least for the general, this direction, this need, and he could be pushing him to keep digging, in a sense. Did you get any of that, or how are you feeling in terms of watching these tensions build across these different characters' backgrounds?
I wouldn't say that I have the vibes that he wants the general to do this. Like, if anything, I do think that his connection that he made with Hallorann is more so the warning that, like, don't fuck with me, man. Like, I'm a seasoned veteran. Like, Pennywise at this point in his career, he's Joe Flacco. Like, he's just walking out and just like, he's trying to hit Jamar Chase with 17 targets a game. He's trying to just eat them kids, not really fuck around with the military. And I get that. Like, that's cool. Right. Mm-hmm. If he does have any sort of connection to remembering that this is Francis Shaw, which he probably could figure out.
He probably does.
And I mean, yeah, like, there's the connection, right? Like, he did the same thing with the Losers Club. I really like that they used the slingshot back at the beginning of the episode. It was so reminiscent of when the Losers Club finally gets brave and starts to, let's kill this fucking clown, right? And then Richie grabs the bat and starts to wail on him. And it's just, I know it's obviously something that's been throughout the books and the movies, whatever, but I like that callback, and that sort of, it lets the audience remember. It's like, hey, you know what? If it kills monsters if you believe it does, right? And going back to that, I think those are the things that actually scares Pennywise the most. Like, you guys were talking a lot about the fear for the other characters. I actually think that there is something very real here of Pennywise actually being afraid that maybe some of these adults coming back actually realize that when they're brave, it works against him. There's a fear that he has of Dick Hallorann being able to be on this different mental plane. Like, what does this even mean? Like, how much does Pennywise know or not know? that still just sticks out to me so much. The fact that he's like, who are you? Pennywise not knowing something and not being aware of something was just stood out so much in this episode.
See, I read that more less as fear on Pennywise, is more like curiosity, like, oh, this is something new. Maybe it'll be tasty.
Sure. But that's the thing, is like, when you don't, how often does not knowing something breed into fear, right? Like, people fear what they don't understand. And if Pennywise does not understand Dick Hallorann and his skill set, he's going to see him as a potential threat.
I want to start talking about the kids, because there's actually a lot to do with the adults in this episode that I think tied a lot of loose ends for all of us, and I like all the points that we've done. We finally get back to the kids. We do end up with another big scare from Pennywise, and talk about it at the top of the episode. If you go to a cemetery and you try and call upon demons, you're gonna get what you're asking for in terms of them showing up. We watch Pennywise mess with all of these kids who are, I think, have a decent idea of a plan in terms of trying to find a way to prove what they're seeing to get Ronnie's dad out of jail. It's not him. It's clearly this other entity, but how do we prove it? We're going to take a photo of him, and the shots that all line up when they finally go into the dark room and they're developing the film. For myself, I was expecting, as soon as the Pennywise picture came out, that we would get an element similar to the film where all of a sudden he starts moving and comes to life. We cut to black too fast for that to happen. Koff, you're nodding your head with me. Is that what you were expecting too? Or how else do you feel like these images are going to layer into the next episode in terms of what to expect?
I had two thoughts. So during the scene, I didn't realize how close to the end the episode was. So I expected another jump scare. Either, like you said, the pictures start to move, or Pennywise popping out like he did in the projection scene in the movie. Or my second thought was they're going to go to show these to adults, and it's going to be like the Beverly scene where she sees the blood in the bathroom, the Losers Club sees the blood, but her father's like, what's wrong with you? So they go to show this, and it's a blank photo to the adults, but to them, they can see Pennywise. So that's what I think maybe leading up to, because otherwise, if they have if you can get photographic evidence of Pennywise, then how has he been hidden for so long, right?
Fair.
So I
it's
feel
not
like
you
they're
had a
gonna
bunch
give
of
us
people walking around with camera, like iPhones and shit. Like,
fair.
This
but
was such a kid thing where it's just so stupid it just might work,
Right. It's definitely a good first draft of an idea, for sure.
Right.
Like, let's go to a cemetery at midnight and take a picture of a monster. Great idea.
Alfredo, I wanted to go to you about this as well, because I know that we've talked about wanting to see the clown. We're getting super close. The edging is still edging. How are you feeling? I know you just want to see the clown.
Alfredo's leaking right now.
Whatever, dude. Like, just first of all, fucking.
I'm cutting that out, Koff. I'm cutting that out.
Talk about edging.
You took it over the edge, bro.
Hey, there you go. If you're still here at 39 minutes, like they're in for the full show.
They get it, audience. Yeah. Listen, man, just give me the fucking clown at this point. Like, please, please. Like, I get it. We're getting
you got a flashback clown.
Eyes.
You got a flashback girl clown.
No, that's not the same. We just saw a chicken Harley Quinn cosplay. Like, that's not it. Like, just give me Pennywise, man. Just give me. I'm actually so intrigued. I'm not gonna lie. I honestly don't even care about Pennywise versus the kids anymore. Like, in my mind, like, all these kids could just, like, not that I want them to, but can die, or all of them except for Will. But I'm so interested in seeing Pennywise versus Leroy. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see that encounter. Jag, you talked about this last episode of, like, how does he get to that point in life where he's just like, you just got to kill the sheep. It's you pull the trigger or life's going to pull the trigger on you, right? Like, how do we get to that? Like, I want to see that. And that's why, like, I can't wait to get Bill Skarsgård on screen, full Pennywise outfit. Like, we're getting sleeves. We're getting eyes. We're getting outline of his hair. Fuck it, man. Just pull the trigger. Let's get him on camera. I need this.
Yeah, to you, Jag, and all these points in terms of how we're building him up and all these little tiny moments where we're getting breadcrumbed with Pennywise. How is that leading for you? Because I know that part of us all want to just see the clown, but I actually feel like this is a solid use of build-up. We've been building up to all these moments, and we're also being given a lot of answers. Or is that just me being my overly positive self? Because I'd love to hear your side.
I mean, like I said, I see the path to where a lot of this builds up. It's just like, when you set yourself up with this, you got to stick the landing. I feel like that's like a total cliche that we say this every show, every season. But to me, the setup has been so easy that just bring the clown and kill everyone and make it fucking scary. And it's good. Like, make it make sense that you got this set up. And to believe it or not, Sam, I'm with you where despite all of our complaints, despite the edging, whatever, and all the stuff, that I'm very positive that this show can do it, just because I feel like, I don't want to say the bar is low, but the bar is very achievable, and they've done the work. They've done the work, and they keep moving the plot at least enough to where, I mean, you got 4 more episodes to get this shit done. You can do it, man. Just spook these kids. I feel horrible. Let's ramp up the racism. Let's rile up the whites, and we'll get there. You know, I feel like we're there.
Rile everybody up.
Do you think they're gonna do and have Pennywise kind of start taking out some of the kids closest to like Lily and Veronica, like the Patty Cakes and Marge and all that, to
we
kind
can
of ramp up again, be like,
One can only dream.
Her dad's in jail, so she's now the butcher to try to pass the get rid of his guilt or something like that. And you could see maybe Clint Bowers being like, oh, it runs in the family. Could you see them doing something like that?
I don't know about that, but I definitely feel like in terms of the buildup of different moments across the show, when the patty cakes are playing patty cake, you feel this amplified sense of tension. And I definitely feel like that is Pennywise in the background, just amping things up to put people on edge. He's just playing that one high note that's just making a chill go up your spine that is affecting everybody. So whether he's, appeared for the patty cakes or for other characters so far with the kids, we don't know. But I do feel like there is a level of tension as he grows during his time where he's active, that he's present and he's causing unrest. He's causing people to feel upset in terms of all those little things.
Sam, you talk about Pennywise the way that a boomer talks about Michael Jordan. Like, you just get romantic about it. Everything going on in this is Pennywise. Yeah, I see it. It's just, you love it so much.
Sam loves clowns.
I don't love clowns. I like...
Your dating history says otherwise.
That's the show, folks. We'll see you next week.
No, I just
wow.
I feel like I'm with Koff in terms of how you look into these spectaculars and fantasies and all these different things. I really get into the reasons why, and I think that as an entity, him feeding off of fear, which is such a universal thing for all of us to feel. And I wanted to go into this in terms of the background of Pennywise and him leaning into the things that people are afraid of. So with the flashback with Francis, he goes to this circus and he sees the skeleton man. And obviously it scares him as a kid. So when he's off in the woods by himself, that's who he sees, because Pennywise latches onto he was afraid of that. And then he morphs into something else. We saw that little red ballooned little girl clown, and we're going to end up with a flashback, not this season, but we're going to get another flashback to that decade coming up. And I do believe that you're going to end up with some child that is afraid of that clown, and we're going to get that back. And Pennywise is going to lean into just how much fear he evokes as a clown and be like, I got something now. I know what all the kids are scared of. And he leans into this image, and that's how you end up with him later. So for me, that's what was leading the connection of, wasn't Pennywise, but it's where Pennywise got the idea. Koff, are you with me on this?
Yeah, his inspiration, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Pennywise as an entity is a mirror for your fear. So, like, he picks what he thinks is going to terrify you the most to amplify the flavor when he eats your soul or whatever he does. So, we've seen throughout history how clowns have been demonized because they're someone that paints their face. So again, going into the unknown, you don't know who they are really underneath that makeup and that mask and that get up. And while they seem nonsensical at the forefront, like there is something, like there is a genuine, like terrifying line underneath that jolliness. It's like, are they laughing or screaming, or you know, things like that. So I could absolutely see, especially the way we've seen Pennywise kind of like mess with kids' heads, giving them something that seems innocent and innocuous at first, and then turning it terrifying and really amping up that horror. So I definitely, I like where you're going with that, where maybe he sees the inspiration for, all right, I have a baseline form that I can take that's going to really fuck with these kids' heads.
Yeah. In terms of turning into things that evoke fear and trying to scare people, you guys talk about wanting to see Pennywise with Leroy and what that means, because Leroy doesn't feel fear. Jagger, this one for you in terms of characters. We talked about how much we love Charlotte. Doing something with Charlotte is going to be the thing that turns Pennywise. And I feel like we're all kind of seeing that coming, or at least that's how I'm seeing it come through. If you want to get to a guy that's not afraid of anything, but loves his family, kind of feels like he's going to have to lean into using his family to try and get back at him.
Yeah, and you got to think that his family is his heart, in a sense. I'm not saying he's a heartless man. Obviously, he feels love and everything, but when you don't have that fear component, that's a whole massive part of your psyche that kind of drives the rest of it. So when you take that away, I think that's where we get you just got to kill the sheep, man. Like, that's like, he goes like full kind of like broken at that point. And we know he's going to lose his son. It's a matter of when and not if. And obviously I don't think it's going to happen from Pennywise, because like I don't think, you know, I love Will Hanlon and all that. I don't think he's making a kid right now and then going off to dying by Pennywise. I don't really buy that. Exactly. It's like an elementary father at that point. You know, yeah. I don't see it. So, but I do think that Charlotte is not long for this world. Coffee, you've already laid the Easter eggs about Chard and what that means. It just, if anything, I'm kind of curious if we're going to watch her Jack Torrance a little bit, because she seems to be aware of all the shit in this town. She's like, hey, these white folks are weird as fuck. And the husband's like, you need to be calm now because of career. You know, like, it's just, I kind of feel like she's going to lose it at some point. And again, it feels like little fires are everywhere, and we're going to get the big fire, you know, soon.
I think the way I'm predicting is she's going to die in the black spot fire, and Leroy's going to survive, and that's going to lead to his bitterness in the future. And so while he may not, see, that's the thing though. If he confronts Pennywise, why then, when Mike is going through his shit, does Leroy be like, hey, here's what you're dealing with, right?
I don't think they talk about it at the dinner table. Is that something that happens in the books? Because in the movies, like, there's no discussion.
In the books, his parents are alive. That's a complete movie change. Is that Will's parents are still alive in the book, and they're farmers, and they live next to the Bowers, and the Bowers fuck with them because they're racist.
Oh, so it's not just his grandpa in the book?
His grandpa's not in the book, as far as I remember. Like, his grandfather's not a character in the book. It's Will Hanlon as the father, and then he gives advice to Mike Hanlon on how to deal with these racist pricks that they live next to, because, spoiler alert, Henry Bowers kills Mike's dog at some point in the book. He poisons him. So, like, they are racist fucks living next to the Hanlons in the book, and they are just farmers, because after Will Hanlon retires from the army, he's like, I'm going to settle down, have a family, build a farm. So this is a completely different, like, take on that storyline in the movies and the show. So I don't know. But if Leroy knows who Pennywise is, knows what Pennywise is, or we presume that he will by the end of this season, it's weird then that 20 years later, when he sees the pattern again of all these kids dying, that he doesn't sit Mike down and go, this is what's going on. Stay away from the sewers. Stay away from racist white folk. Like, he gives him none of that. He's just like, kill the sheep. Stop being a bitch. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think Charlotte's going to die in the black spot fire, and that's going to lead to Leroy's bitterness. But if he knows what Pennywise is and never leaves Derry, why then does he not have any role to play later on in the movies? That's where I get a little confused with these storylines of where they're going with them.
Very fair. talking about little fires everywhere. Before we sign off, I kind of want to go around and see for you guys. We're getting towards that midpoint. We got a lot of answers in this episode, like we said, but we've got a lot more to come. And all these little fires are leading to something else again, continually. Alfredo, for you, in terms of what you want out of episode 4, you said you really liked this episode, but you also didn't like it. What do you need out of the next week, besides obviously seeing the clown, in terms of the full range story that will take us to the end?
I mean, I think we're knocking on that door, right? Like, we're getting all these stories to start to converge and for actual action to be taken. I think a lot of it now is just that we keep getting more setup. I want something to pay off. And I know it's still early in the series, but we are getting to that midway point where you do start to need to have things pay off. Like the fear, for example, the fear of our girl. Who's our girl that went to Juniper Hills? I can't remember the name right now.
Lily.
I almost called her Linda. Lily goes to Juniper Hills. It honestly seemed like summer camp. Like, we didn't get any indication anything bad happened there. She made friends with one of the orderlies who was just super nice to her on her way out. Mm-hmm. It seemed like there was really no ramifications for her going to Juniper Hills. It was like, all right, well, you took a week off and you had a nice stay. We'll just get back out there. And right now, like, that's kind of what it seems. Like, there's no payoff. There's no ramifications. I mean, we got that in the first episode, right? But, like, since then, it's just been kind of a lot of, like, let's keep setting the ground. And I don't know how long I want that to keep going. I'm ready for some sort of, payoff here at this point.
Jagger, how about for you in terms of the little fires? I really like the call out you just made, Alfredo, because for myself, going into this episode, I wanted to see a little bit more of Juniper Hill. Jagger, for you, what do you need to see next week in terms of not just building, but a payoff for a question that you have?
I need the military to make sense. That's I need to know why they're there, how they got there, and obviously they're like, we're gonna make a gun out of Pennywise. I don't fucking know what the military wants to do with it, but like, how did they get there, and how did they know about the entity beyond, what Francis Shaw, like, oh wow, I remember this fucking killer clown. Hey guys, we could do something with this. That's what I need, and if they solve that problem for me, I am buckled in and seated towards the end, because I feel like everything else will work itself out.
That makes sense, and that's fair. Cough, for you, what little fire do you want to put out?
Yeah, a lot of what Jagger said. The military subplot has continued to be my sore point with this show. And then the other thing is, I need to see a couple more kills. Like, we need to see some of these bodies drop, because right now we've only seen...
It's not enough for Cough.
It's not. If you look at, like, the cycle, Pennywise kills us like dozens of kids every time he feeds. It's like double digits. So we've gotten 3 now, 4. So he's slacking this cycle. Is all I'm saying.
So you need more of the kids to die to feel like we're getting payoff in this episode. Fair. Yep. In terms of the fact that the goal, it seems like, for this series was to jump in on decades where Pennywise was at his worst. And if we're supposed to build up on that, I want to see, just like you said, what is worse. And we have a ton of the groundwork in terms of all these extra characters that I'm already bought in on. I'm bought in on all these extra characters. I'm even bought in on Auntie Rose, because though we didn't get too much of her screen time, we got a decent amount this one, and I want more too. I'm happy with all the character arcs, but to your point, Cough, it's not that I need it, but we need kind of more of these kids to go in order to heighten the level of fear for this town, the level of, importance, I think, even for the military, connecting with the cops in terms of what is happening to this town. It can't all be Ronnie's dad if he's behind bars. Also helps absolve him a bit if more of these kids can die. Who is actually up to everything? Guys, there's so much to cover, and we're going to have to end it there in terms of what we're going with this week. Next week, obviously, we'll be covering episode 4 of It Welcome to Derry. Guys, make sure that you're liking and subscribing, and don't miss a single episode of Unbinged. We will see you next week.